What up, fam? Hit that like, hit that subscribe. This is A2D Wednesday nights. We'll go over Joel Embiid 70 piece. Loved it. We'll obviously talk all things Eagles. We'll talk the presser. We got it all. We got it all for you. So let's go. Welcome in, everybody. This is A2D Wednesday nights, only on A2D Radio. Every Wednesday, we are brought to you by... Why is that happening? First off, with the comments. Why is there like that? Oh, let's see if that's still there. Now it's gone. That was so weird. Did you see the StreamYard thing up there? I'm like, what is it? What's that, a glitch going on here? What is A2D Wednesday nights? We are brought to you every Wednesday by Royal Billiard, the premier game room store of the Delaware Valley, located 515 Bethlehem Pike, in Colmar, PA. Go check them out. And they also got hot tubs too. As always, we got Greg, Blake, Luke, Tom. No Chrome tonight. No Noah tonight. They'll be back with us next week. But we're here and we're here to talk a lot. We got a lot to talk about. We'll talk about the Sixers weekend. We'll give a little Sixers weekend preview. We'll discuss Joel Embiid. Like we talked about, he dropped 70 the other night. So that's going to be fun to go over and talk about, and some positivity in this city. We'll discuss Eagles-related stuff. We'll also talk about, obviously talk about the presser today between Howie and Nick Sirianni, but we'll go over a little bit of Vic Fangio as Eagles defensive coordinator. You got some other names out there. We'll discuss that. And Eagles coordinator search continues. Ties right into our poll question. Brought to you by Baggio's Bread, located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Home of the best stuffed breads, tomato pies, sandwiches, cutlets, meatballs. We mentioned A2D Radio, 10% off your order. Go check them out. Baggio's Bread, Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Our poll for tonight. You trust Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman to hire the right coordinators for next season. Agree? Disagree? Let us know. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, that's where we're live. Everywhere you get your podcasts, we're there as well. Hit the like, subscribe, follow. Say it every show. Engage in the conversation. Come out tonight because a lot of typing has been going on the last 10 hours. So feel free to type in here. You know what I mean? I've read enough stuff. I mean, I don't even want to get into the elephant in the room. All right, we'll get into that. Actually, no. You know what? I can't even wait to do it. Like I need to wait. We need to wait to talk about everything that's happened over the last goddamn 24 hours in this city, and everybody sweeps it under the rug. We're sweeping stuff under the rug. Like it's not real because we got our green freaking blinders on. It's a joke. This is a joke. This is a total clown show. Everything about this organization has been clownish. All right. And they just somehow found their way back to a Super Bowl last year. Right. Okay. But it's been going on. This little dog and pony freaking behind closed doors stuff. Who's got power? Who's got control? And that's not only going on at the NovaCare at the upper level, that's obviously been reported going on the field too. So there's a lot going on with the Philadelphia Eagles. And the fact that people out there can't be objective, right, and can't just look at it on the surface and then gather their own information and have an opinion, you're allowed to have an opinion. I know it's 2024. That's hard for people to comprehend, right? And everybody takes quotes whatever way they want to out there, all right? You take it any way you want to. All right, like you're crapping on a guy. At no point have I heard anybody on A2D Radio, including myself, run this quarterback out of town. Not one time. Not once. I'm going to hold him accountable for how he plays on the field. I will praise you when you're great, and I will smoke you when you're not. That's how it works. You ain't playing amateur sports, babe. This is how the big dogs, this is how the pros, that's how it works. That's how fans react. Because that's what we are. We're fans. Never tried to act like I'm a freaking goddamn news source. I never tried to act like anything more than what we are. We are fans, first and foremost. Simple. I ain't going to write for the Inquirer. I got an Audubon education. All right? So, like, we're allowed to have opinions when it comes to Jalen, when it comes to what Britton Covey said or didn't say. Like, we're allowed to, like, react to it and be concerned by what is happening. If you want to say it's all clickbait out there, then be my guest. I'm not telling you everything's factual. But it's pretty funny that things we thought were clickbait with Carson ended up being true. So before we just rush and say, nah, it's not true. Not true. We did this before. I'm here saying I did this before. I did it. I swept it. I act like it wasn't real. And I watched my team come out and stink again. And I watched nothing change. So for anybody on this football team to be saying anything to the media about Jalen is weird to begin with. And please, do me a favor tonight. Don't compare him to MJ. Don't compare him to any of the all-time greats, please. There's a body of work that needs to be done before we start having that conversation on how you walk around and carry your damn self if this is true. That's all. I don't know what's true and what's not. Neither do you. That's the fun part about this. Neither do you. You got the poster and the sock out, and you think you got all the answers. I'm an objective fan that wants to win. And if you can't understand that, then stop listening to me. Go somewhere else for your information. There's a million kittens out there that have no football IQ that want to do podcasts all the time. All the time. 7.5 billion podcasts in the world. Million. So a lot of people are doing it. So go somewhere else. I'm not kicking anybody out, but it's agree to disagree, which means I can have an opinion, you can have an opinion, and we can still be friends. Just because I'm a little more animated with my opinions doesn't mean I think I got all the answers. So before you attack me on social media, before you talk about my freaking family, before you do any of that crap, come see me then. That's simple. I ain't no freaking dryer sheet behind a desk writing for some paper. Come see me. I'm a fan. We'll sit, have a cocktail together. I'm not talking about fighting yet. I'm saying we'll sit and have a cocktail together, and we'll break bread. So don't attack me. And if you say something about my family, I will fight you. So there's a big difference. All right? So just be respectful, man. Difference of opinion. I'm tired of hearing clown get thrown around. I'm tired of hater. You don't even know me. You don't even know me. I'm not on a defense trial right now, like trying to defend myself. I'm telling you, we are fans. And you're not going to like all our opinions. Sorry, had to get it out. Disagree. Wholeheartedly disagree. I don't believe in the dog and pony show until they prove it again. We can't keep doing this. We can't keep failing, have epic collapses, and then circle back and act like, well, I trust them. Unless there's a former head coach in this building and somebody who really is great on the other, whatever side of the football, I don't believe in nothing until I see it again. You just collapse down the stretch. We just sweep it. We act like it ain't real. We point fingers at whoever we want to point fingers at, and we don't realize when you collapse like this, it's on everybody. And guess what? All the big cats who got paid the most last year are still on this football team, from the general manager to the head coach to the quarterback, who you usually three things you point blames to. All still here, boys. All still circling the building. Some you can't talk to, supposedly. Right? Some have an aura about it. Can't talk to them. What does that mean? The fact that that's even discussed is concerning. And then we got Howie and the puppet show Nick, which we'll get into. You know, we'll get into that presser. And I don't get into pressers often, but we'll discuss it. All right, so I disagree until they got to prove a lot to me right now. And I'm going to stand and die on that hill. If you want me to pom-pom you, you came to the wrong program tonight. It ain't happening. Go ahead, Luke. Sorry. I had a lot to say. I apologize for the rant, and I ain't done yet. I'm just getting started tonight because you ain't going to freaking talk about me like I don't know anything, like I don't know sports. You ain't going to talk to a guy who does sports daily, all day long, and tell me I don't know what I'm doing then. That's like me coming to your job and saying you don't know what you're doing, which you probably don't. Right? Steal money, pumping gas at Wawa. Sort of mom's home cooking's good too. Shut your mouth. I'm a man. I'm 41. All right, I'm done.
Yeah, so I I agree with everything you said, and I agree with that. In terms of disagreeing and not trusting, I think trust is a strong word. I definitely don't trust what they're doing, but I will say that just for some optimism, they've actually hired well. I get it. Last year they didn't. That was a promotional thing, and I think it's funny now that Fangio's out. Now it's rumored to come here already. I think that has everything to do with they thought they were going to get him. That's why they brought him on at the end of last season as like a consultant. At the end of that season, he didn't do well at all. That's another subject. But I agree with you. I disagree to the poll that I don't trust them, but I also am going to give him the shot. But I'm also going to back your point 100%. Like, I love, and we got into it last week about the coach and how he may or may not should go and all those kinds of things. The main thing, the main reason that I heard why you should stay is, well, you don't fire a coach that, took you to the playoffs 3 straight years and made it to a Super Bowl last year and all these great things and how you never do that. Well, the other thing that's never been done is, the collapse that we saw coming out 10-1. It's never happened before. So at some point, I want something to change. And that goes to your point exactly. The fact that these three guys are going to come back seemingly with the same kind of role. And you said we'll get into the presser later. I don't know what role our head coach plays, to be honest with you.
He's the head
And
coach.
yeah, yeah, I guess.
I'm the head ball coach.
I'm the
Yeah,
head coach.
who knows?
It's
But
funny
yeah,
that they asked that though, right? Like,
and honestly, I'm surprised it wasn't asked earlier.
yeah.
It should have been asked earlier because he went out and said those things. And then afterwards, my immediate thought is like, well, what the hell do you do? But yeah, I'm in agreement with you for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's Vic Fangio is starting on the right track, right? So it's starting there, but I think you both are absolutely correct. There is nothing that they've done in the last 2 months that has allowed you to form any trust with them. If to touch on the little bit of the pressure today too, it's even more mind blowing when you hear about Nick talk about how much tape they watch and how much tape they have the ability to watch, and then yet we still had that 6 week, 7 week, 8 week stretch of just absolutely putrid football, right? And you go back to some of the other rumors out there. How is it, with all these rumors coming out, there's something's out there. Something in there's truth, right? It's not just all, not necessarily every rumor's there, but when there's a lot of smoke, there's usually fire somewhere, right? So it's very interesting to trust them right now, even though large body of work, they generally do, as you pointed out, Luke, they generally do hire well, and you can generally trust what they say and what they do. But right now, they're in such a funk as an organization that I don't know that they can see their way out of it right now.
Definitely are. Blake, what do you say?
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with the three of you as well. Like, I mean, this sideshow monkey show has been going on for like how long now? The last like 2-3 years now. This whole thing like in the middle of the season, like changing defensive coordinators in the middle of the season, trying to make the players learn a new scheme. Like it just like goes back and forth to like the same pattern that's been going on like throughout these past 2 or 3 years. Like you don't really know who's in charge of like. Well, I guess we do because like when Shane Steichen was here, we knew who was running the offense, but it's just like with just a lot of things that that have transpired, with with Jeffrey Lurie down to Howie Roseman and to Nick Sirianni. It's just you don't know like who's being accountable to who, and just yeah, like do I have confidence? Like, I mean, yeah, like I agree with you guys that they've made some good hires. Like, I think if they can get Vic Fangio in there, I think that's a good start. But as for the offensive coordinator, I think whoever comes in there is going to have to, have a creative mind and have a creative offense to get Jalen back on track. Because this whole Brian Johnson thing, from what that's what, like you were mentioning, Tom, that what's being reported in the Inquirer is it sounds like it was just like a total disaster from all three weren't on the same page, starting with the coach, the offensive coordinator, down to the quarterback. I mean, whoever comes in here, all three need to be on the same page, because otherwise, we're just going to be back to square one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when you talk about the Brian Johnson situation, like I gotta clarify this again to the people. When I say the guy when the quarterback had a part in the hire, that's expected, man. You just pay him $255 million. You think he don't got a voice in the room? Like, I'm not taking a shot at him. You guys act like one guy said to me, well, I didn't know quarterbacks made hires. Dude, come on, bro. Now you're just not having a feel for life. Like, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is he had a partner. Their relationship was close. I get it, right? Sometimes as a coach, been here, Greg's been here, where you're so close to the situation that what's best for the player is probably not you, right? It's not you. Either the message isn't working or you can't get up in him like you would like to, right? Maybe. I don't know, okay? I don't know. That's just me thinking out loud, right? But like, he obviously had a part in that decision, as he should, right? They all did, and it didn't work for whatever reason. Like, I don't know how true going rogue is. Like, I don't know. I hope to God that's not true. But the fact that it's even being reported is a red flag. And if it's not, I don't know what to say to people. It's a take a step back moment. That's all it is. Like, uh-oh, why is this being reported? Right? The diva is just like out of control because you're like, this is the guy you knew was a leader. Or that's what you thought. Right? And then, like, again, for Covey to come out and say what he said and then backtrack is even weirder. Like, then it was like a defense trial. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Like, why? Like, the whole thing is just strange. And again, if you don't think it's weird, then fine. Buy your season tickets again. You know what I mean? Be at every game. Like, I'm here too, babe. Like, I'm just telling you, if you don't have some concerns, then okay. If you're not going to go in with your binoculars next year, that's on you. That's on you. I don't care how you act on the sideline. I don't get into that. I've told Greg known this for years. I don't dive into that game. Okay? But when you start like looking at all the things that have been said, and then you put that together with what you watch, you're like, something's off this year. That's all. Something was off. Something was off. Doesn't mean that something can't be fixed. Okay? Doesn't mean. This is not irreversible. Okay? It's not irreversible from us getting it right coaching staff-wise, even though I disagree, or Jalen getting back to the level of play we need him to be, or this team being to the level we hope they can be. None of that's irreversible. We can get back there. That starts with hiring the right coordinators. That starts with accountability. And that obviously starts with great play design, right? But then you got to have respect from the quarterback for him to trust in what you're calling too. So there's a lot that goes in. But like Marcia said, I just hope 250 didn't change somebody. I'm just hoping it didn't change anybody. Hopefully it didn't. Hopefully this is all just BS. But the fact is like a sports media company that we're not going to like touch on any of that, and we're not supposed to, Greg, that's what's weird to me.
Yeah.
That's what's weird.
No, 100%.
We didn't report it. We shared it.
Right. Yeah. We just created a piece of content around it. Right?
Stop. Like, I'm not doing it for clicks. I'm doing it to share information.
Didn't say breaking
with the
from
people.
A2D radio.
Yeah. It's called sharing information with the fan base. You can take it however you want.
And it's one thing if it's just one story, right? If it's one story, you can ignore it and be like, oh, it was taken out of context, right? It was this, that, or the other thing. It's one thing. But when you take a step back and you start to, as you said, Tom, you start to compile all the different stories, not all of them are true, right? And not all of them are going to be 100% factual. But if you start stacking them up, something's got to be going on over there, right? There's something in there, right? When AJ not talking in the media, right? Offense looking absolutely putrid. Them saying they're watching tape, but still doing the same things. Then you continue into the offseason, right? And the last 24 hours of stories that have come out. That's the stuff that you start piling them up, and something in there is truth. What it is, as you said earlier in your rant, we don't know. Nobody knows except inside that building. But there's something in there that smells like a rat or fishy, right? You know what I mean? Like something in there isn't right.
Yeah, it's just like a little off.
Yep.
Or maybe a lot off. I again, we don't know. We don't know. We can go off of you go off and feel with everything, but it all starts with hiring the right coordinators because you're not getting rid of anybody else. So it's like, okay, can I hire the right coordinators? Now, when you talk about Vic, okay, and I'm coming in with a 3-4. I mean, do we have the personnel for that? You know what I mean? Like that's the one position, like a linebacker, what? Right? Like so, there's some question marks there. I do like the fact that he's a lifer, right? And he's had success. I mean, I'm not going to say like I'm beating down the door for him, but there's worse options and there's familiarity, which I think is also important, right? And that was a Dolphins defense that was decimated with injuries at the end of the year, and they still fought and scratched and clawed. So
They still
there's
perform
something,
well. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, there's still something to be said about that too, right? So I mean, I'm not against that hire at all. I'm not going to be like running the broad street, but I'm also like, that's a good hire. It's not a bad hire, right? Like it's not a bad one. I know people don't like it because it's similar to Gannon, but it's not Gannon. This guy's way more, polished per se, and it's a guy who created his style of defense, not a guy who's running off his style.
Yeah, just off the surface too. Like if you look at the 3-4, with Fletch and BG being kind of on their way out, our defensive line kind of and quote unquote linebackers kind of are potentially set up for that, right? You would have Jordan Davis in the middle, flanked by Carter and Williams on the down lineman. And then you would have Reddick and Sweat as your outside rushing linebackers. You know what I mean? So on the surface, without diving too deep into it, it doesn't seem like it's that far-fetched of a transition as it might have been like when you go back when we tried to transition BG into that rushing linebacker. Yeah. That was some interesting days, right? But once we got BG back with his hand on the ground, he obviously flourished. So I do think, without diving deep, we do kind of mesh well, at least off the start.
Yeah, there could be worse candidates and there could be worse hires. So again, it's familiarity. It's a guy who was just like a part of it in a way. So I'm not against it.
I don't really think there's anybody that they can get that will like make me overly excited. And I kind of mentioned this last week, and I'll say it now, and I kind of adjust what I said. I said, we need to start seeing like prolonged success and not these major dips. I feel like, and maybe Dallas is including this as well, we do not deal with adversity well, and that's as an organization. I'm not pointing at Jalen. I'm not pointing at anyone in specific, but it feels like now we're going down a really similar path and a really similar road we did with Wentz. And you brought it up, and it's like everyone kind of, pits it away, didn't treat it as a big deal, when internally they were freaking the hell out. And that they were because they drafted a quarterback. So my thing now is like, normally you get a disappointing season. You look at a team like Buffalo. All right, it was a disappointing season. We lost to Kansas City again in the playoffs. I believe in my coach. I believe in my quarterback. We got to bring the right pieces, and we're going to go at it next year. To us, a disappointing season. It's like everything's going wrong. Everyone's in question. And my thing is, we've gone through like a complete roller coaster like this before. The main common denominator is that the owner and GM have been a part of this both times. And you go into it next year, and I get it. This coordinator conversation brings intrigue about who they might bring in. That's great. End of the day, I'll sit up and be honest with you. I don't think there's a chance in hell that they win a Super Bowl as long as all three of these guys come back. Because as we've talked about, there is something in there. I don't know who or what it is that is clearly holding them back. And as long as those three guys are there, I don't care who they hire a coordinator. I refuse to believe that this train wreck that they can't seem to maintain and they couldn't do with Wentz and Doug Peterson and that I refuse to believe that, just running it back is going to solve everything. I can't believe that. I can't.
Yeah. And listen, how do you disagree after the collapse?
Yeah.
Right. Like, again, I don't have a problem with Nick back when it's all the dust settles. Right. Like, I get it. Right. You don't want to be in the business of firing coaches, a year after going to a Super Bowl either. Right. So there's like that fine line. Right. So, and you also know that like certain guys aren't going to come here because of Jeffrey and Howie's control. But, again, like to your point is it's hard to just say, okay, we're just going to run it back after the collapse we had and think it's going to get better. Like there's something that's going to change, right? That's the biggest concern is we just watched the bottom 5 team in the NFL play. So now we're going to act like, okay, run it back. We're good. This new coordinator. That's all we needed. Okay. Well, all I'm going to say now is that the microscope just got even bigger for Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, and Jalen Hurts. And listen, man, I seen crazier stuff from this guy. You're going to know. You're going to know when this draft is over how he feels about his quarterback. We're going to find out a lot about that, which I hope we don't find out what we found out previously, right? I hope it's like, hey, he's the guy. Like all this stuff was just extra, right? Whatever. Somebody in there didn't like him. Make sense? Like, I don't know.
Well, this is this is the Jalen apologist in me, and I'll just bring this up for a second. But say that happens and they draft a quarterback in the second round or something like that again, and everyone's freaking out. That goes back to my point where it's like, yeah, like Jalen and Wentz, they needed to be better. But at the same time, you're talking about the same owner and the same GM that went down literally the same exact path with 2 franchise quarterbacks who at one point were the top of the NFL. So at what point do I say, do the binoculars go right on them and say, what the hell are you doing that every other team in the NFL does? Like, this never happens. And you see it twice. Weird.
I know
Really
what
weird.
they're doing. I know what they're doing. Anybody want to know what I think I know? It's pretty clear, especially on the offense side of the football. It is so clear. I have a ton of success offensively. And now I come into the following year and I want to be the greatest show on turf. And I want to throw it around the yard. And I want deep plays. I want big shots. It's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. And you're saying to yourself, oh my God, you're a conspiracy theorist. Like you think that they have that kind of control. Yes, they do. That's what everybody's missing. When a guy isn't allowed to hire his own coordinators, when a guy gets told who is dressing and playing, are we not remembering this? And we think that Nick's here now. He's got control of it. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. Hey, wake up.
Yeah.
So that's where I'll be a Jalen apologist with Luke and say, I watched this story. I read that story. You know what I mean? I watched that. I watched this movie before that Jeffrey made.
But that's why I want the coach gone, because to me, you're running this back. You're wasting another year of this guy's time here. And guess what? If he has back-to-back seasons, I know we call him this charismatic guy and he's tough and all this stuff. It is hard to come back from 2 bad years in the city. It really is. I don't think I've seen it happen, really. Have 2 bad years back-to-back, disappointing years, and come back. I don't want to see him in that position because, to be honest with you, I don't think he would get out of that either. I don't.
No,
that's why
the only thing keeping him, Luke, is Howie doing his job at a high level, right? So like Howie's on the hook for him, right? So
yeah,
Howie hopes he does it at a high level so he can control his puppet.
But the problem with that is that word you just used, right, Tommy? Because you're absolutely right. Luke, even if he goes, right, we're going to have the same scenario coming in, right? We're just going to get the next young, hot coordinator that's coming in and just willing to take the job because, hey, I'm now a head coach.
Yep.
And then you get into it and you're year 2, year 3, you're like, oh, wait, This is what it's about.
Yeah, Dave, that is not ideal. He said this will be Jalen's 6th offense coordinator in 7 years. So, yeah.
It's
Not
not,
ideal.
but it's not going to change, though, right? The days of consistency on the offensive side of the football are gone, right? The NFL is an offensive league. I think all but, 2-3 coaches are defensive-minded head coaches. I mean, look, Vrabel hasn't gotten a job yet. You can understand why Bill hasn't gotten a job, but, like, all these defensive-minded coaches are being pushed out, and everybody getting hired is an offensive-minded head coach for the most part, right? There's few, obviously, anomalies, but for the most part, if you, as a coordinator, show that you are good in any worth, you are going to get potentially at least interviewed, if not hired, for the same or a head coaching position. I mean, you can look right at Houston. What, that Bobby Slovak or whatever his name is? What's he, 32, 33 years old, young kid, did really well at Houston, and all of a sudden he's a head coaching candidate. I mean, you look over in the Rams, the quarterbacks coach or the passing game coordinator for McVay the last 5 years has never even been a DC. And he's up for DC or offense coordinator. He's up for an offense coordinator. He's up for head coaching positions. Like, it's insane the level of these organizations go to find an offensive guy just because the league naturally has turned into an offensive league.
No, and you're absolutely right. It has, right? And the problem here is, okay, we got an offensive-minded coach, but how offensive-minded is he? Because we're talking about bringing in a guy who he's like, well, that's his offense. Mm-hmm. So that meeting that happened that pushed that whole thing back, the whole presser back, was probably Howie telling Nick, no, you're giving up reins to the offense. You're going to circle the building. That's the only thing that makes sense.
Or they were on the phone with Fangio.
It also could be that it was Steichen's offense last year, and that maybe they gave him an opportunity and it didn't work out.
Very true. Very
it could
true.
Be that too.
Because he did say it was his a million times.
Yeah.
So, if you want to take a guy for his word in a presser, which I find a hard time doing, but I will. Right.
I mean, and you also did see 2 completely different offenses from this year to last year too. So I'm pretty. That's what I believe happened.
Probably makes the most sense. And I don't know if it's going to be Frank Reich because he's owed like $35 million still. So, I don't know how that works. You have to buy him out of that?
No, because he's fired. So while he might be owed it, I don't think you.
Yeah, but if he takes another job.
Yeah,
if he takes another job, is he still owed it?
That's no. So most contracts, he's not owed it at all. That's why I saw today the Sixers saved some money with Doc Rivers taking another job.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't realize that. Makes sense though.
Yeah.
Why am I going to pay a guy while he's also working?
Yeah, you can't double dip.
I mean, unless you're the NCAA, but we won't go there.
Yep. Dad says Carolina has to pay him no matter what.
Okay.
I didn't think so, but maybe they do, which is like good news. You know what I mean? If you want Frank Reich, right? I'm not saying I want Frank Reich. I'm just saying if you're on that side. I mean, you get anything out of the presser today, guys? Did you get something that you can really hang your hat on today?
I like how Howie mentioned the perceived lack of questioning the linebackers. He said it was a perceived notion that we don't value the linebacker. There's no perception around it. You hung your hat, and hey, no disrespect to the kid. You hung your hat on a kid who has an injury history. And lo and behold, he got hurt. And then the praise, I mean, Zach Cunningham didn't have a bad year, but to praise him like he had a TJ Edwards year and that he was like your best player on your defense, it was very strange to me to see how naturally he's the GM. He's going to try and throw you slop to make you not realize how bad of a job he did at that position. But that was interesting to me, them trying to spin that they just got caught with their pants down at the linebacker position.
Yeah, it's like, bro, just take accountability.
Yeah, just say I didn't do a good job.
Like, hey, like, I mean, you don't gotta say nothing bad. I mean, you can praise Nakobe because in that side, I get it, bro.
Sure.
Like, you draft him to be your starter, you're expecting to have him, and he gets hurt. I mean, obviously it's football, right? You're hoping he can have a healthy year, but like, I'm not even gonna crush him for that. I'm just gonna crush him on the fact that he just does. It's clear he doesn't value it like other organizations do, and if you don't see that, I can't help you because he doesn't put the money into it. He doesn't invest into it with draft capital. He just pretty clear, Howard. Pretty clear, buddy. So, Luke, anything you take out of it today?
Main thing was like the fact of what we were all wondering with the defensive coordinator thing. Finally came out that it was Nick's decision to do that. I don't know. I just, after everything that's come out, I am honestly shocked that he hasn't been fired. I'm honestly shocked. On top of it all, that there's this unbelievable class of guys that you can go out and get, which we've talked about, and they probably won't because, they like to control everything and stuff like that. Maybe that has something to do with it. But like, he made that horrible decision. It can be assumed that maybe this was his offense, and it could also be assumed that maybe he lost, the locker room. At least one of those three things are true. And to me, one of those three things is the reason we fell off, and that's a fireable offense because that shit's never happened before. So I'm just blown away that he wasn't fired, honestly, because the more I sit back, at first I was kind of 50-50 on it. The more I sit back and watch all these stories come out, I don't get it. I thought over time I would cut back to the idea of like, okay, we'll see what he can do when he comes back. The more I sit back and watch this stuff and it keeps getting worse, I cannot believe that they didn't change the head coach to at least put something into the fan base at all to say it won't be the exact same product or the exact same story or the exact same thing with Wentz and Peterson. Like, it literally feels like we're watching the same movie again, slowly but surely happen again. It's ridiculous. I'm blown away he's not fired now that we've learned all this stuff. Crazy.
So Daz says, I get list a couple names, right? Buda Baker, Devin White, Jair Alexander, Josh Allen.
Josh Allen.
Do you pick up that phone? I know he's a free agent, but you expect like a franchise tag or an extension to get.
Oh, you mean the defensive lineman, Josh Allen?
Yeah, the defensive lineman, yeah.
I thought you actually meant like Josh Allen, the quarterback.
I thought you meant Josh Allen. I thought you meant Josh Allen, the quarterback, too. But no, there are some good names. Derek says, what I got from it is they knew they messed up and they're trying to cover their asses. Yeah, of course. You know what I mean? Of course. Yeah, Dad, you said that, and I said I'll pick up the phone with Buffalo right now. Like, you guys can have all the opinions you want. Like, I go get that guy. Like, I'm sorry to break that news to you because he needs a change of scenery big time, and our guy may too after what just went on this year. You know what I mean? Like, you can make the case that he may need one too because what happened here is a lot. It's a lot, and like Luke said, every day there's something new. Every day it's somebody else doubling down on something. It's really weird. It's a weird time.
Like, our disappointment is like dysfunction, whereas disappointment in Buffalo and in Miami, they know the GM, the owner, and the quarterback, they're fine. They got to build a team around them and make it better. Us, it's like there's a story about the GM, there's a story about the quarterback, and this guy and that guy. It's ridiculous. Like, why does this happen? And the common denominator lies up top because we've seen it happen before. Those are the only two guys that have been here for both times. They should be looked at first.
I almost wonder if these guys leak it half the time. I don't even know what to think.
That was going to be a point I was going to bring up. Like, you mentioned the leaky part, and that was one of the things I was thinking about the last few days. Like, you wonder, like, a lot of these leaks that come out when you see this story about the offensive coordinator and the quarterback and the head coach, got not getting along and all this other stuff. You're like, you almost have to wonder, are they like at the top, like leaking it on purpose?
Yeah,
almost have to.
you would think
have
like
to wonder.
why, but then it's it's almost it's almost to take the blame off of them. You know what I mean? It's almost like to deflect it for that year, right? I don't know. And then you can spin it like, well, it's not, it's just reports. It's not true. That's not true. That's not true. You know what I mean? That's not true. You come double down on it being not true. I don't know. The whole thing's weird. Honestly, I didn't take anything out of it besides the fact that what are they going to say? Like people got excited for it, like they were going to tell us something we didn't know. They're not. And the second part is nobody's got a sack in that room either. There ain't a guy in that damn room that's got anything between their legs when it comes to questions. Yeah, I mean, they just don't. Nobody presses. Everybody in the NovaCare is scared to press the issue. Nobody. Get all these reports out. Nobody talks about it.
Nick, what is your job? Right? I think that probably was the toughest question.
Not like what, like, and again, I might have missed this. Like, not why are these reports coming out about your quarterback? Why are these reports coming out about, losing the locker room? Why are, like, you know what I mean? Why are these reports coming out? Why is that not mentioned? Like you had a Pro Bowl player reportedly say something about a player that your franchise quarterback, claims it's not what he said today. Fine, whatever. But nobody's got a question about that today. What? What? I can't anymore. You know what I mean? I can't. Like that's you got a layup line in there. I mean, you got layup lines. Or at least the person who's writing the story or got the quote and has somebody there from the Inquirer. How are we not asking that question? To double down on your reporting. What about journalism? I don't need the damn degree to understand it. All right? We ain't talking about Tom trying to be a doctor. All right? I know going to school for it's hard, but I'm not trying to be a doctor. Okay? I'm telling you that, like, these are right in front of you to double down on something you just wrote about. Where are those guys? They all go hiding? Yeah. It's like they're scared. You know what I mean? It's like they're scared.
And the report got leaked by a guy who does your pre and post game on the network that does your pre and post game shows. You know what I mean? Like that's not, yeah.
Well, that's what makes me laugh. Because everybody came at me.
Not suspicious at all, right? I mean,
yeah, like everybody was coming at me, Greg, like all over on platforms, and I'm like, I didn't report it. First, it was the Inquirer, and then Barrett went on Jacob, and I had no problem talking about it like it was really weird. And nobody said a word about a former player who does all the things Greg just mentioned and says it and says, this is strange. And that's okay. But Tom says, wow, that's weird. This is a bottom 5 team in the NFL type shit. What's going on around here? And I'm a hater. And I got an agenda. And that's why I do a video saying my agenda is simple. I love Broad Street. Been there twice. Great time. I'm trying to go back. Frankly, we will talk about Carter Hart. The freaking creep. We'll talk about the creep at the end of the show here because these reports. I know some things to be factual, but I'm not going to do that tonight. But this ain't just smoke. This with him is not just smoke. This is deep stuff. Well, Pat, now Eskin ain't going to ask a hard question there ever. I mean, Bet, they pay his bills. Are you out of your mind? The only place he asks hard questions is the Sixers because he's a loser with them. He's a loser. Just like he was with AI, just like he was. He wants to look for those stories there to tear them down because of his disdain for Joshua Harris. This is agenda reporting now. You understand? When I say no agenda, that's agenda reporting. So I don't think people comprehend it. Not you, Pat. I'm saying like the masses. But not one person asked those questions today. That's the biggest takeaway for me. I don't know them asked. I'm not even trying to look for a fight. I'm just saying, like, hey, guys, everything good with Jalen? Like, if I see Nick at the facility this winter, I'm asking him that question because nobody else got the balls to.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a little off the record. Give me a little off the record, Nick. I won't ask him because, it's not my style, but would love to know. And we will talk Glenn Rivers.
The other thing,
him again in
too,
the show.
and when we kind of touched on it, to me, the timing was an issue, right? You schedule at 2:30. You don't go on until 3.
I was just about to
Right.
say that. Ridiculous.
And whatever the reasoning was, right? Whether maybe you're on the phone with Fangio, then if you are, then why didn't you just report it then? Then you come on and you shoo the guy who asked you about the Fangio rumors once they started circulating around in the presser. You're like, oh, yeah, we got a bunch of guys, which, okay, I get. You're not going to report on it. And that's why I kind of thought maybe something like an hour, 2 hours after the presser, they would have broke it. Like, all right, we officially hired him. And then they cut the stream or they cut the presser right as almost everybody in the chat, if you're watching online, everybody in the chat started pressuring, or not pressuring, but started bringing up, oh, Adam Schefter reports Fangio's hired. So-and-so's reporting Fangio's hired. And then they're like, all right, cool. No more questions. Thanks. Like the whole timing of everything to me seemed just very odd, but par for the course with what we've watched the last 6, 8, 10 weeks.
Oh, they are, bro. I mean, you want to talk? We talk about no notes around here. You understand? Like they had I feel like they had a 2-hour briefing. Like you would have thought it was like we're releasing CIA information. I mean, that's the lack of transparency that they give us here in Philadelphia. There's a lack of transparency. I beg for my athletes to be transparent, and I sure as hell beg for my leadership to be transparent. That's all I ever ask. Don't lie. Don't give me generic answers. That's like Jalen's starting to rub me the wrong way with all the generic, same answers, the standard. Like that starts to stop it. Stop it. Stop it. We just lost like freaking 7 in a row. Everybody knock it off. There ain't no standard right now besides losing. I don't need that answer now. I need real, right? When you're winning, give me generic. But when you're losing, then I need you to be transparent. I think as fans, I think if the people who pay these salaries and pay these owners, obviously TV money does. I get it, but they ain't getting TV money unless we're watching. So, and we're not talking about it. They ain't getting nothing, and they feel like they can do whatever they want in this city and not be transparent because they're talked about 365. Like that's not fair to us as fans that you can't sit up there and tell me. And yeah, Howie did for a minute. He said it's on me. You know, I take a lot of pride in it, and I respect that, right? And Nick said the same stuff, right? He took a lot of accountability for stuff for a minute, right? They all did it for like a minute. It was a little minute, but everything else was just like wishy-washy. Wishy-washy will give you generic answer. Every post-game presser is generic. Everything's the same. And I don't care about it if I'm winning. But the second you start losing, I feel like, guys, I need you to give me like not the Andy answer anymore.
Yeah. Or the
like,
Bill,
I
right?
Do better. Like I know you got to do better. Or Jalen,
Bill was the same way.
Yeah, we're not playing the standard. Yeah, I know. Thanks.
Yeah, no shit. We
just
can see that.
There
I'm
was
not
some transparency.
I'm not getting those 3 hours back. Thanks, guys.
Like my main takeaways are what they were being transparent about, which is one, what the coach plans on doing next season and his role. He could not be more obvious in how clueless they are about that whole thing. And the other thing that he was transparent about is what happened with Desai and how that went down. And to me, when he goes on his spiel about, the offensive coordinators be in charge of the offense, defense in charge of the defense. I'm going to be a head coach. I'm going to establish a culture, and I'm going to keep an ear out. Well, what I saw last season was that, clearly there was no culture. And if there was, it was not nearly good enough for a winning mentality. And the other thing about it is that your earful that you went around and kind of caught a vibe on, you panicked. You admitted that you made the decision to do that, which arguably ruined the entire season, or at least didn't save it from anything. So how could I trust you in that role either? I don't want you at all at this point. You just proved to me in that press conference, instead of giving me generic, which they normally do, you're right, he basically told me I do not deserve to stay here. I'm worthless. I am 32nd in the entire league in terms of what I give forth to my team. That's a joke. Why should we why entertain this?
Why you ain't entertaining him? That's what you're maybe missing a little bit, right? It ain't about him. He's getting controlled by Howie. This has been going on.
Right.
So, like, to your point, I get you. What's your role, babe? What are you here for? You're a puppet show, right? You're here for cool shirts and whatever else, and then try to create a culture. Understood. Gotcha. Great at that. Now, what I disagree with Marcus a little bit here, based on what's happening, that's even more of a reason. Unless you love this, it's even more of a reason. You ain't going to tell me not one of those two guys are going to stand up there and tell you the things that are being said are false. You don't get out in front of it. You let it just keep simmering. Come on. That don't do nobody any good. You ain't going to say the wrong thing if you're saying the right thing. That's what people don't understand. If you're saying the right thing, you ain't saying the wrong thing. So if you're telling us that the right thing is that Jalen's the leader and all this extra stuff is so far from the truth, and you give a little chuckle, we're all believing it. But you don't give us that. Because the damn movie production up top. And then we got the CIA agent, Howie Roseman. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I cannot believe we're watching a general manager in a suit and tie run the whole thing when it comes to football operations. Like on the field, dressing, what kind of style of offense we want. And I get a general manager wants an input on what kind of style they're running as an organization. Understood. So you can go shopping. But it ends there. You coming out and saying, well, we're going to air it out this year. We're going to be a little run and gun without the run. You know what I mean? Like, come on. We just watched it again. I don't want to keep going back, but we just watched X amount of years ago, elite offense, and then all of a sudden year two, or not year two, but you get it, the next year, we just want to drop back and run maybe like deep crosses and go routes. Or deep outs and go routes. Everything's got to be a chunk. Where last year, you were top 5 in rushing. Like, this isn't hard. I'm not asking you to be missionary. I'm telling you, why did your quarterback not want to run an RPO system? Why? Was that ownership? Is that a general manager? Is that the coaching decision in their scheme? Is it what he doesn't prefer? What is it? You can't be that successful, be in MVP conversations, have the completion percentage you had, the touchdowns, the big plays, the rushing numbers, and then we don't run it no more? Or not enough? Because what? You can't go make somebody something they ain't. And with all due respect to Jalen Hurts, he's never going to be a guy to sit back there and go through the defense like that. He's just not his style of play. So you cater, like Shane did. You play to his strengths. RPO system. Plays to his strengths like no other system in this league can play to his strengths. And makes linebackers have to think, have to wait a second to react. This is 101, but I don't know sports. I got you. I got everybody out there who wants to come after me. You tell me what changed. Nick, you're that much of an idiot then? Mr. Film? You can't watch that much film and see every time you run an RPO type play and you got AJ on a crosser, that 90% it's open and it's a one read and go. I got nothing left in the tank. I'm being honest. I got nothing left in the tank. You all can, and I say this respectfully, you all out there can go and just keep drinking the green Kool-Aid then. We watch an epic collapse and we got nothing to say about it. Nobody. This ain't a league on what you did. This is a league on what you just did. What just happened? Ain't no damn league on what you did 2 years ago. Or Bill Belichick would get a lifetime contract in freaking New England. Ain't about that. If you lose a locker room, whatever the case is, you don't draft well. You do a bad job in the offseason, general manager. Ain't nothing guaranteed to you. The worst collapse in Eagles history, and we swept it all as a fan base. We're acting like a bunch of little pussycats. Little pussycats around. We're scared. We're scared to have an opinion. Because if you do, you get attacked. And Marcus is here. Right, Marcus. We both love Barrett Brooks. All right? Barrett was on Jacob talking about the Britton Covey stuff. So why is it wrong for A2D Radio to share that information? Why? Somebody tell me why. I'm so stuck on this. Somebody tell me why. What are we creating? People are like, oh, you guys love controversy. You love shitting on players. No, I don't. If you play like crap, I tell you, you play like crap. And if a pro can't handle that, you probably shouldn't be playing football. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You know, and then we hear this, right? Like we hear this stuff. Like, and now it's a Cowboys fan, so we'll continue. Sorry, I didn't see the hat. That's on me, guys. See myself out. Todd knows. He's an RPO system quarterback. I ain't taking a shot at that. I just watched it go to a Super Bowl. Nobody's saying Jalen ain't talented. What I'm telling you, he ain't going to sit back there and read it all. Not his style. You're going to go make somebody that ain't. I know in 2024 we try to make people what they are. But, okay? But come on. Can't do it in football, too.
And these are the so
I got nothing. I
left to just go.
I just thought you give me a chuckle. You know, I'm not trying to get deep into it. You do whatever you feel like you want to do. I ain't taking shots. I'm just making a point. Like we're
well
going to go.
Done. It was well done.
we gonna try to change guys at this level that are successful doing something.
No, you're absolutely right because it's something that we all questioned when we drafted, right?
Kevon, everybody's a system quarterback.
Sure.
100%. To a point, unless the all-time greats create the system.
Right.
Like Mahomes, he ain't a system quarterback. He ad-libs more out.
But he benefits from being around Andy Reid.
Well, early on, he absolutely did.
Who has a system that it allows him to do what he does and builds to his strengths 100%.
Careful, Daz. Careful. Everybody careful. Careful, Daz. The $255 million for 20 turnovers is unacceptable. Careful. Wasn't his fault. Look, you're a defender, too. You can't even tell me that 20 turnovers aren't his fault, right? Like, come on.
Bro,
there's levels to this.
I'm really not a defender. I just see
you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I know. I just see it. I say it again. I'll see it as a standpoint. I'm seeing the same movie. And there's two guys that have been here for both of them. So how could I not think it's their fault? And I'm about to ask probably the dumbest question I ever asked, but it goes to your point. Like, do they not understand that they're probably going to make more money winning, trying to run the football than losing, trying to throw for 400 yards? I mean, it's a silly question, but I don't understand the love for throwing for 500 yards when you can win. The season was going a whole lot better when we were 10-1, and when you made a Super Bowl versus, throwing your quarterback under the bus, throwing your coach under the bus, and trying to, make players they're not, coaches they're not, schemes that don't fit. I refuse to understand it. Makes no sense.
And Sydney says I sound like Cilio. Well, he would sound like me, first off. And second off, like, no, I'm not. Like, he's a well-documented, hater of him. Like, he's been very clear on that. I've never been on that side. I've always been in the middle. Was I critical on draft night of the draft pick? Absolutely. You kidding me?
Wasn't.
And I had major question marks on what this organization was doing. But I gave him his time. I mean, there was guys on shows with me after his first year saying, I need to see his junior year, which was last year. This year was the senior. A lot of times that happens at the college level. Guys have monster junior years, sort of regress senior a little bit, rest on their laurels, and then get back to who they are, whatever, when they get to the pros, etc. Right?
Look at
So
Caleb Williams.
It happens. Like
Caleb
so
Williams this year.
I am not running him out of town. I'm trying to run the football with a guy who runs the ball himself. Like, if you're scared of him getting hurt, then you got the wrong quarterback then. Because you're taking away his greatest strength, which is the RPO. Like, if he has the opportunity to hand off, keep, or throw, come on, we saw it. We thought DeAndre Swift would have 2,000 yards, and Jalen would have 1,000 himself. So this is just what linebackers would have to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Well, that's the question, right? Like, everyone knew Jalen was hurt. Yeah, and Marcus, he could have been, right? I'm not going to say he wasn't. Like, they're not going to tell us everything. Hence why transparency is important after the fact. Would have liked to hear now. 2, they refuse to lean on the run game. Couldn't agree more. We all agree there. They never adjusted the offense to run play action. I don't think they even know what that is, right? And 5 would be they got rid of the RPO format. And 4 is they didn't use DeAndre Swift a game well in the pass game. Yeah, they had no pass game.
Are they going to bring him back? That's the one move that I'm really torn on right now in Swift. Because if he doesn't come back, I mean, dude, they have to draft somebody. They have to, because that position group is not looking good at all. But then it's like you can't really invest money in an offense that was clearly, did not look good at all. So I wonder if they bring him back.
Martian, I think it was the knee. Or because it's the safety,
yeah.
Committed safety. Marcus, you're the best. Martian, you're the best, Martian. You know what I mean? I love you, bro. A hot route. Marcus, we talked about this on Sunday. Like, they don't even know what a damn hot route is. Like, we don't even know. Hot route. It's like the first thing ever created in football. Like when an audible happened. Hot route. Right? Like, we don't. Marcus, I want your opinion as a guy who's been in a locker room at this level before on the validity to all these reports, on everything. I'm looking forward to hearing you tomorrow on it. And how much is it concerning to you and to the fan base? Like, how concerned are we? How much trust do we have in this entire organization? Like,
here's something I never said on here, but it might shock you a little bit. Like, even if those reports aren't true, you are the first team in NFL history to lose 6 games starting 10-1. Your collapse will be remembered for a long time. It is historic. Obviously, the quarterback needs to be questioned at some sort. Obviously. And if you're not, then there's a real chance if you're not, questioning him a little bit, then it'll just keep on getting worse if you don't at least talk about it. Like, obviously, he'll get talked about. It has to be.
No, it absolutely has to be. You can't, like, again, you play like 500 ball or something, you can say it. Marcus, I sent you a link. So Kayvon says, hey man, I'm a Jalen fanboy, but playing the way he's been playing, and play calling is trash, as we know. We absolutely know that. You can't blame a play caller for turnovers. True. You can blame him a little bit for like putting him in a position, not putting him in a position to be successful. Sure, a little bit. Yep. And that's just me being fair, even though people claim I'm not. But he said, turn it, Jalen. Jalen needs to turn it around because I wear a hoop earring because of this man. I love a good hoop, Kevon. I love a good hoop. And the way he was playing last year, I considered a hoop. You know what I mean? When he had 4 game-winning drives or whatever this year when we stunk, right? I was considering the hoop. Now the hoop irks me. You know what I mean? Now it's like I got a little. It like irks me a little bit. Like, take the hoop out.
It comes back to the generic answers, right? You know what I mean? Like, hey, they're all fine and good. Time's yours. We got to do better, right? They're all fine and good when you win, but when you still go when you start, losing, and then you go on a streak of losing, those generic, we got to be better. Keep the main thing, right? Those answers don't go well once you start losing.
Estefan, I mean, I've said this a bunch, so thank you for saying it. He said Hurts holds himself to a high standard. Why can't we criticize him? Yeah. Like, are we in Philly still? I mean, like, sometimes I forget where we are. Sometimes I'm like, we can't have an opinion of like, hey, you're not playing well enough. I need you to be better. I need you to be the guy that we think you are. There's nothing wrong with saying that. Like, nothing at all. And it can go both ways, right? Like I have major issues with play calling this year. Like, major designs, the whole nine. Like, I can go on for days for that. Right. But we know when you talk about coordinator and a quarterback, they need to be on the same page. They need to work together extremely well, which him and Brian, you would think, do because of their relationship. But like that doesn't take away also from my quarterback not playing to the standard. And when you go on a tailspin like you did, you don't have an epic collapse like that, and it's not on everybody. That's the whole point. So we can't be just critical of Nick and then say, well, Jalen, you're free pass. Of course he's back next year. Nobody's an idiot here. Right? Like, of course he's back. He redeem it. Redemption. It's what sports are all about. Your next opportunity. But if he plays like this next year, then it's Houston, we got a problem. That's all. And hopefully he doesn't. Like, I want Broad Street.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Go back to last year. Go back to last year.
If I can be critical of amateur athletes like I am, to their face, that I coach, I can't be critical of a guy for 255? Wow. And I love the kid. I do. I mean that. Right? But like, Marcus is joining us. That's awesome. So, we give a little, give us his feel on his feel on this situation or all this stuff. What's up, bro? You catch Marcus every Thursday night, man? Pro Fan Talk A2D Radio.
Listen, man, specifically about that situation with Covey, because I was talking to Barrett about that specifically. And we both jumped the gun, but I know they put something out last night. I didn't put anything out till this morning. And then 5 minutes later, he released his tweet. And I was like, well, hold on. And I was like, that's why you don't believe everything you hear from at this point now, anytime I hear a source, I have never met Source. He's never played it down. I'm waiting to meet this dude, because he is close to every situation in every locker room. Anytime somebody's talking about sources, I'm always suspect, because I'm telling you, never will a player in a locker room tell somebody in the media everything. And that's the problem. You give somebody a little, it's almost as if you're talking to a friend and somebody that you know, but you really don't know, they just happen to be around, they hear a tiny bit of your conversation and they take that little bit of conversation out of context and then they run with it. And then they fill in the gaps. And that's what happens. And the more important thing was, before he released his tweet, I was like, if the people in that locker room figure out and understand that Britton Covey is the one that's talking to people, they will look at him as a snitch in the locker room, and that is bad for business. You talking about something that'll destroy a locker room? That would be worse than any type of TO bomb or something like that. Because there's a difference between you don't like what's going on and the locker room being fractured. The T.O. and Donovan thing, the locker room was fractured. There was a bunch of people that backed T.O. and a bunch of people that backed Donovan. So they were split. That is not like, well, we really don't like what the coach is doing. We don't like what the plays he's calling. I've been a part of a situation where our head coach got fired because he was doing stuff like under the table. Like, this was my first year in the World League, and they started treating Doug Williams, Hall of Fame Doug Williams, that played for the Redskins. He was our offensive coach, and they started treating him bad. And he was the marquee name. They had a bunch of coaches and players that had NFL ties to bring in, to bring the people to watch. So when you start, treating the talent bad, that's what ended up getting the dude fired. But he was doing some behind the back stuff, sneaky stuff. And it was very easy to tell. And nobody liked it. So I'm saying all that to say, Britton Covey in his situation, I'm glad he came out and said what he said. And the most important thing is he put his name on it. He put his name. Jalen's a great guy. best leader I've ever been around. He'll sit with the lowest man to the highest, all of that kind of stuff. So people, I heard the talk about, they were comparing Jalen's comments to Dak Prescott. So I was like, where the hell is this coming from? But what they were saying was when Dak gave his glowing praise of McCarthy and all of that, and I'm like, that ain't Jalen Hurts. If Jalen Hurts came out tomorrow with all of this rah-rah talk, we would call him a fake in a hot second and would nobody like him because it would be too easy to tell. Jalen did exactly what he was supposed to do. He's the same when he's up and the same when he's down. And I'm good with that because at least he's consistent. You might not like it, but he ain't changed a bit. So
and no problem with that. My question to you is about like, see, when that stuff got reported last night, I listened to Barrett obviously talk about it, and then you see that a player's name's tied to it, which you usually don't get, right? You usually just get the source. So immediately I'm like, wow, this is big information. Like this is crazy. Like this is happening. We're talking about unapproachable. Like, no, you're not at that level to be unapproachable. Like that's not what a leader is, right? There's MJ status, I get, but you're not there yet. That takes a body of work. So that was like, oh, this information has to get out, right? And if I didn't hear Barrett talk about it, I probably would have just let it go. But I literally just, like heard him, and his opinion was the same as mine. Like this is really weird.
But I was opposite of Barrett. I didn't believe it. I didn't think that at all because I'm like, first of all, if something is I understand what he was trying to say, or whoever wrote it saying unapproachable. I get that part about it, but that's a you problem. That's you being scared to walk up and talk to somebody. When my rookie year, everybody was getting hurt. Starters were playing on special teams. So I had to get up the courage to knock on Rich Kotite's door. Rich, why are you letting Seth Joyner run down on kick coverage? I'm a rookie. I'm not doing anything. Let me run down there. Let the chips fall where they may. That was scary as hell walking in his office doing that. So when you say somebody's unapproachable or something like that, like, no, that's a you problem. Because if everybody knows somebody that's loud, that's boisterous, unafraid, that can walk up to anybody and say anything. But everybody doesn't have that personality. So when you put your idiosyncrasies and all your shortcomings or whatever on somebody else, it don't work like that. And that's not the way to do it, because I don't want Jalen Hurts sounding like Fletcher Cox or Brandon Graham, because different personalities.
Well,
and
it triggered before this, though. There was something that triggered this before this that makes what Covey said like, whoa, like it was the last domino of it, because there was also reports, like I'm saying a month ago, about like some diva stuff. Again, reports, diva stuff, right? Unapproachable, going rogue. I heard from a guy that I know that's got some connections in it 2 months ago, questioning his leadership, and I shut it down. Greg remembers we talked about it on Wednesday, and I shut it down. I said, dude, you want to question other stuff, questioning, but now we're going to question his leadership? That's it. That's weird to me. And he said, I'm telling you. And I'm like, all right, man, I'll wait to see it. So when all these things you hear, and then a player, now they didn't question his leadership, of course, but questions like sort of his persona, like then I'm like, wait, this is here we go again. We just went through this. So it's immediate, like you're going a million miles an hour, right? When you do what we do, because you're like, all right, there's a lot of validity to this, right? So what's our next move? And listen, I hope, like we all hope, that it's all just BS and it's all just people looking for clicks, right? That's what you're hoping, right? Yeah. Because if any of this is true, we may have a problem unless you go play an MVP level. I got nothing to see here.
But that ain't right though, because let me say it like this: both things can be mutually true. You can have some people look at him some kind of way because in a locker room, everybody ain't friends. So it could be somebody bitching about the situation. Because if you remember, since everybody wants to compare it anyways, you go back to the situation with Wentz. Did nobody know nothing about Wentz until, what was it, Darren Sproles told his story in the locker room? Where then everybody was like, oh, okay, now I understand. But wasn't nobody thinking about that when they were going through it? So it's just like people in your family. They family, but you don't like everybody. You know what I'm saying? And some of the worst fights you get into are with the people in your family. That's why I didn't think too much of the whole situation with AJ Brown. I'm like,
yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yep.
Man, them dudes are thick as thieves. And anybody that got one of their boys, if you tight like that, at some point in time, you and that dude done went through it. You done bumped heads, came out on the other side, you dapped each other up, and you kept it moving. And that's
I agree.
And they are friends like that. So when you see stuff like that on the sidelines and everybody just totally ignores that kind of stuff happens every day, every weekend on every team. You go back on YouTube and look at some of the stuff that Troy Aikman used to say and Tom Brady used to say and Peyton Manning used to play. Remember when Peyton Manning and Jeff Saturday got into it on the sideline?
Mm-hmm.
And Jeff Saturday told him, like, you're not blocking. And Peyton was like, you just do your job. And they started going. That stuff happens all the time to the best of the best. But now we got to jump on Facebook. Somebody's a diva. So I understand what AJ Brown was pissed off at. Now, I don't believe he was mad at Devontae Smith turning his ankle. I believe he was mad at that damn play call. Let's not get that twisted. But he did what he was supposed to do. He was trying to keep it in-house. And my problem was with the whole AJ Brown situation. What are they doing in the film room? Because that's a film problem. It ain't when they on the field. That's a film problem. They went over and they worked on that game plan in film session. And I guarantee you, during film sessions, in the dark, they're giving each other the side eye, like, what the hell are we calling? Because they know they know how it's going to end. So the whole situation with Jalen, I don't believe he was coached up the right way because I don't think Brian Johnson is the dude to do that. Like I mentioned earlier, we need somebody like Bieniemy. We need an old school offensive coach. Kingsbury.
Well, how about
is
this?
Nice.
They're so close, right, Marcus? Like their relationship. Sometimes when you're that close, and your days of coaching, when you're that close to this situation, I see it all the time. I deal with it all the time. You're that close. Sometimes it's hard for you to hold him to the level you and accountability
to
that
the
you
fire.
need to hold him to.
Yep.
It's hard. It's hard. You care too much about him that you don't want to be too hard on him, right? And after a guy comes out of a season like he just did, I get that too, right? Like, and I think the part of the AJ stuff, and I think if and I do believe that there could be truth to it a little bit, where maybe the play call, maybe he ran a little bit what he wanted play calling wise. I think every quarterback does that. I think everybody quarterback does that. So I think some of AJ's frustrations could be with Jalen too, but because how close they are, he's never going to throw him under the bus, nor should he. And vice versa.
But I look at it like this, and it could be, but I'm like, guess what? Jalen Hurts wasn't audible in all of them damn bubble screens, and he wasn't doing all of that. Like, do y'all realize we ran 2 bubble screens and then ran an option one game? He didn't call them plays. So ultimately, that stuff falls on the coach. It's like, and I think I said it before the Tampa Bay game. It was like everybody and their mama knows Todd Bowles is going to bring the blitz. Now, if we go into that game and we act like we ain't never seen the blitz before, then yes, Sirianni needs to go. And I didn't want Sirianni to be fired. But I was like, if we get a performance like that, and damn it, what do we do? Todd Bowles blitzed us almost 60%, 59 point something percent in the game, and we caught 2 of them. So it was like, what were they doing in class all week? That's coaching. That's scheme. So that's Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni and whoever they bring in to be the offensive coordinator. I would like an old school dude because they need somebody to come in with enough gravitas that can erase all of Nick Sirianni's fingerprints out of that offense. I want a clean piece of glass. I don't want Sirianni involved in it because I've seen what it happens when he is and what happens when he isn't. I'd rather have him when he isn't. You be the
remember
CEO.
year one,
Exactly.
2-5, right? Year 1, 2-5 until we gave up play calling duties. And some guys, and I've always said this about NFL head coaches, like, I don't think they should call plays. I think you should hire guys that you believe in to get the job done, and you should manage personalities. That's what you should do and create a culture. I mean that's really what you should do.
Big Red is good at it, but even look at Andy Reid, because to me, Andy Reid's the best example of that right now. But even this year, as well as they're doing now, you still can't tell me that their production hasn't fallen off because Eric Bieniemy is not there. That was a big help. So now everything is on him because whoever they brought in got to go through that learning curve. So now they back to the same boat. I think it's
Matt Nagy. Isn't it Matt Nagy again, right?
Yeah.
They still producing, but he misses the help. It took them a whole year to get back to where they were before, but it wasn't easy. So I don't know who they're gonna hire for. I guess the Vic Fangio thing is I guess almost a done deal according to Adam Schefter, but you know how that goes. But our defense will be fine. I trust Howie to do what he's been doing the last 5 years in the draft. He's gonna miss on some, just like everybody else does, and we gonna get one or two. He's gonna get 1 or 2 doubles in a triple in there, and maybe we'll hit a home run. But I tell you what, he better do something at that damn linebacker position, or it don't matter who we getting for defensive coordinator. So
listen, if you don't address the middle of the field, the back end, obviously the safety position, the linebackers, then he doesn't understand football, and he doesn't understand how the game is being attacked. It's always been attacked that way, but now you see it. I mean, you look at two of the teams left standing. You go over to the AFC and you go to Baltimore. I mean, that's elite. When you talk about Queen and Roquan Smith, that is elite stuff there. And then you go over to where else?
San Fran as well.
Yeah, San Fran. You go Fred Warner and you go Greenlaw. I mean, that's elite stuff there. I mean, Fred Warner, arguably the best middle line, not arguably, probably the best middle linebacker in football. So he's a difference maker. I mean, you can't. And again, they addressed it. I mean, they drafted Nakobe Dean, knowing the injury history and concerns, and you hung your hat on him being healthy. It didn't work out. Learn your lesson. That's all. Learn your lesson and know you need to be deeper there. And I'm never a fan of we talk about this with free agency hit. You can't let Edwards and Kaiser go. You got to make a decision. One's got to come back. You can't let, I always like saying Omar Epps. You can't let Omar Epps and CJ go. You can't let both go. You need some familiarity back. And Bradbury's going to go. We know that. Isaiah Rodgers is I think he's pretty good. So I don't think I need to go corner first round. But that's where you have the ability to go linebacker.
We got to go line. I would hope that they keep, because I was a big fan of Kaiser White last year. So I would hope that they would keep Cunningham. They can get rid of Moreau, but I think Cunningham, played well enough to keep him around, because you don't know. I like Nakobe Dean. I like what I saw when he was on the field. Obviously, that's the biggest problem. So we'll see what they're going to do with that. Maybe we can get lucky and get Trotter Jr. I doubt it, but hey, we can hope. But I think our secondary is good. Our defensive line is still good. Everything is going in the middle. The keys to the defense revolve around our linebackers. Howie has to know that. So we can't be about that nonsense no more. Or his ass is going to be on the fire next year.
It's no coincidence the linebacking group was played very well, our 2 Super Bowl teams.
Exactly.
And then the years they weren't that good.
Why is that so hard? Right? Why is it hard to replicate what you did? Like we talked about a million times tonight, top 5 rushing team in the NFL last year. Is it a coincidence that you were that successful? Look at the Baltimore Ravens. They ain't changing who they are. They ain't going to change their stripes. That's who they are. That's what makes them as successful as they are. And they got a Swiss Army knife at quarterback. It's the same thing here. Jalen's best offense is RPO format, because linebackers, like we just talked about, have to hesitate because they got to respect his ability to run the football too. So when you have that and you have a guy like A.J. Brown, you're almost undefendable. And you watched it last year, and then we think, hey, all right, and I swear this comes from Jeffrey. I swear, right? That all right, now we got to throw it 40 yards every play. We got to air it out. And it's like, okay, and that's why Nick's back. That's why they're like, all right, we can't fire the guy. We told him what to do. It's like, what?
I
believe that's true.
we were in the perfect situation going into this season. And to me, and I'm saying this strictly as a running back, we were in the perfect situation because, in my opinion, towards the end of the year and especially in the Super Bowl, Jalen had showed you that he can beat you over the top. He was putting the balls where they needed to be. He was throwing people open. He was doing all of that stuff that everybody loves to see from your stereotypical Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, drop back, Herbert type quarterback. He was doing all of that stuff, and they couldn't stop the RPO. So my thought was, okay, coming into this year, we got DeAndre Swift. We still got Gainwell. So what you got to do is you cut the RPOs in half, and that difference, just make sure you give it to the man you pay to run the ball. And that opens your play action.
It's like they don't want to pay him, Marcus. I got swear on that. He goes, like Greg said, he should have ran for 1,600 yards, right? Like in reality, if he rushes for 1,600 yards, they got to pay him. It's like almost like deep down, they don't want the price tag. It's so weird.
Man, and I say this again, and my heart bleeds for my running backs, but we going extinct, dude. The running back position is going extinct because everybody wants a hybrid. Everybody wants the next Debo or CMC. But even when you got somebody, at least when Philadelphia has somebody like that, they don't use them right. 2 years in a row, we done had a running back that could have mathematically led the league in rush. And we didn't use it. For as much crap as Miles Sanders got, and I was a Miles Sanders fan, Miles Sanders should have led the league in rushing last year, period. If you take his average yards per rush and the difference between him and who was it that won last year, the kid from Oakland? If you take the difference,
Josh Jacobs,
if you took the difference in number of carries and you multiply it times our Sanders yards per carry, he was number one. So he should at least been in the top three, but we didn't use him right. And then we get DeAndre Swift, and we talked all of that smack. We can bring back the screen game. We're gonna use him in the pass game. He's gonna shake all of the linebackers, and we ain't do a damn thing with him. That is coaching.
The weird thing is we did it through 11 weeks, right? Not a lot, but like early on in the year, if we remember, like DeAndre had some big games, right? Like the first 4 weeks, I feel like he was rocking and rolling. And then to everybody's point, then they stopped doing it for whatever reason.
You know why he was rocking and rolling? Because at that point, when did Jalen hurt his knee? Week 4, week 5?
I don't know. But to your point, I think it was around that timeline to equal, no more RPO.
When people realized that Jalen couldn't run, that's when the running game stopped. And if you look at some of our big runs later in the season, right? We kept trying to force it in the middle from tackle to tackle instead of tackle out. DeAndre Swift is 205 pounds, maybe? So Gainwell was the same way. If you look at some of the big runs by those two, they were bouncing out and they were getting themselves out of trouble. Then finally, just a few times, we did the wide pitch. We even took the skinny pitch. And I keep saying this, man. The NFL is a copycat league. How come we the only team that's not copying? Everybody else doing what San Francisco is doing as far as going in motion, different sets, moving the defense. Do we do it? No.
It's 1-on-1 for a quarterback. Like that's the thing I don't understand. Like I put a guy in motion, I know exactly what you're running. Like you can't hide a zone. If I put a guy in motion to the strong side, right? You can't hide if you're a man in zone there. So like I never understand why we don't make it easier for our quarterback or whoever that quarterback is on any system to say, okay, I know for sure I got a man defense. I got a man look coming, right? Like even the greats of all time, it makes their job easier if I know what I'm going against. Goodness gracious. I go play flag football every Thanksgiving. I like to know what they're running. It makes your life a little easier.
I didn't get it, man. And that to me, and that's where I started turning about getting Sirianni up out of here. Because I'm like, this dude done been to the playoffs 3 times. and a Super Bowl. Do you really want to get rid of that and start all over? No. But then you look at just, to me, common sense stuff. Like, we don't throw across the middle. You want to blame all of that on Jalen? Okay. Whatever you want to blame on Jalen, you go ahead. But you told me, Nick Sirianni, that this was the same offense that we ran last year. This was your offense. You told me that. So I am going to take you at your word. And if that is your offense and you can't figure out what the problem is or what to change, that's on you. So
Time to sell the house, Nick.
Listen, man, if you can't, if we can't pick up the blitz from a game where they blitz some ungodly amount of time and we can only pick it up twice. How many turnovers did Jalen have this year? How many picks? 17? 17 interceptions.
20 total, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm not counting the fumbles. I'm just counting the interceptions. So he had three of those interceptions were deflections. Yeah. And I want to say 2, maybe 3 of those interceptions were end of the game, heave it up. I think it was 2 interceptions, last play of the game, heave it up to see what you get.
15.
Right. So you take, that's still too many, but it's not as bad. But it all comes down to every game we had this year, every one, everybody had to say, why are we doing this? Why are we running that bubble screen? We was bitching about the bubble screen last year. And that
why is there no running back screen in this offense?
I don't know.
In the history of NFL, I've never seen an offense without it. I've never seen an offense without it.
You know why? Because one of those running back screens, I believe, with the Jets got picked off. Because everybody knows what we're doing.
Yeah. It's really predictable.
Everybody knows what we're doing. And we're not at the thing I like about San Francisco.
Well, why we heard this twice, Marcus? We didn't just hear this now. We heard this with the last regime. Why are we hearing it with 2 different regimes? How does everybody know what we're doing? We don't. And now everybody in the NFL knows what everybody's doing. But how 2 straight regimes do we know what we're doing? How much of that is on? This is like conspiracy stuff, but like, I swear to God, I feel like Howie Roseman is literally coaching this team from afar. I swear on it. It's weird. Like Doug those reports are real. Like he told Doug who's dressing, who's playing, and Doug said, I'm done with this. Like, and he put his foot down and then they parted ways, whatever. Got fired, whatever you want to call it. Nick's never gonna do that.
No.
Right. And if he won a Super Bowl, maybe, right? If he wins a Super Bowl, I could see him being a little bit more. He's not that type of guy. Nick's a good dude. That's the thing. He's a good guy.
If that's true, they'll tell Sirianni that he got to pass more, but they didn't tell Gannon he had to blitz more. They didn't do that. And then what do we end up doing? And this is the other thing. Again, Sirianni, if this is on you, Patricia was your boy. As soon as Patricia start calling the shots, now we got damn Hassan Reddick back in coverage again. I thought we learned that lesson. So all of that regression, I don't know if Sirianni's taking the bullet for Howie or what the situation is, but it was.
You taking the bullet for $8 more million?
Man, they better do something if they want to win, because to me, it was common sense stuff. Our issues were not complicated.
Not calculus.
Everybody knew what our warts were on defense. They weren't hard to figure out. Our whole defense would have looked a lot better if we could just tackle. But you got to tackle in practice to do that. Whose fault is they not tackling in practice? Head coach. That's his fault. Tackling is the attitude. Everybody, did you see that video that they put out about your boy in Detroit when they was in camp tackling, and he set the tone right there. And we look like
this ain't patty cake. Yeah, this ain't patty cake. This is physical. This is physical. This is a physical sport. I mean,
and we were everything but.
Like, and I love baseball. That's my thing, right? But like, it ain't baseball. This is physical. Like, you have to have
physical in baseball. Shit.
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm saying, all due respect to baseball, it's not a physical sport. Like, this is a sport where you can give a guy, get off your legs for a minute, right? I need you. This isn't a sport for that. This is a sport where you got to start with that tone of physicality because it goes throughout your season. It's not like, oh, well, we're not going to get physical in camp because we're going to let guys. It's a whole Chip Kelly thing. Like, we're going to analytically, their bodies last longer. Shut up. I watched so many injuries this year again. So no, it's not the case always. It's not the case.
Preseason too. They're cutting out the preseason.
I don't mind that. But if you're going to cut out the preseason football, then I got to get physical in camp. It's that simple. You can't have it both ways.
They're not.
If I'm playing in preseason games and I'm getting my taste there of physicality, then absolutely. But if we're scared of a damn ACL in camp, then scared money don't make money. Like this is a league where the injury rate's 100%.
It ain't the ACL.
It's 100%.
It's them running around with them damn Halo helmets on. That's what that is. They don't want to do anything because the NFL has deemed it a money issue now. Because they don't want to pay out for CTE and that whole rabbit hole. They don't want to do it. So the die has been cast, man. So the teams that figure out how to tackle first are the ones that end up having a good season. And we're not one of those teams, man. Look
at those 4 teams.
Exactly.
I mean, you look at the Baltimore; they don't miss a tackle.
They don't miss a tackle, man.
You give me a sheet, they probably miss 5 all year. I'm joking.
Roquan Smith had them boys ready. We don't.
And then you look at Detroit. We just talked about them. You go to look at Kansas City. Not the most talented group defensively, but they tackle right. Yep. And then obviously, we know what San Fran brings to the table on the defense side of the football.
Baltimore was the first team to punch San Fran in the mouth first. When they came to Philly and they started that trouble on our sideline and we didn't do anything, I was like, that ain't good. Because you're not going to get into a situation and get yourself in trouble because don't nobody want to pay them fines. But at the end of the day, you do set a tone and you don't let nobody disrespect you on your field at home. And that's exactly what we did, man. But
let me ask you one more question here.
Sure.
In terms of my questions, right? And I'm asking it to all you guys too. He has the same type of year next year, Jalen. How we feel? Same, I'm not saying the same thing happens, but we're first round exit. It's not to the level it was in 22. Like, how are we feeling after your senior year, or not even after your senior year, your 5th year in the NFL? How are we feeling if we don't see that bounce back? I think we get it personally. I think we get it. Because, again, I do think there's some truth to the injury. Because they talked about, we sort of, again, swept it under the rug as the season went on because he kept playing. But they talked about, man, he's tougher than you think he is. He's tougher than you think he is. So he's playing through. But they never told us what, right? Okay?
Right.
So maybe there was something there that affected his game. It happens in sports, obviously. So how are we feeling? Like, 1, does he bounce back? And 2, what happens if he doesn't?
Well, it's 2 things. Number 1, it depends on who's our offensive coordinator. And because you got to think about it like this. Last year, when we went to the Super Bowl, was the first time in Jalen's college or professional career where he had the same offensive plan for 2 consecutive years. So when he came back last year, he already had the answers to the test. Right? So
whoever's he's not the greatest in terms of reading a defense right now in his progressions. Currently.
Correct.
So he needs that.
So what were they changing? Again, Sirianni said it was the same offense. I beg to differ, but okay. So what changed? Because he was running it great when the other dude was here, when Steichen was here. So that's the first thing. So are we going to get a new offense? Is he going to have to learn the whole thing again? And the second thing, and to me, this is the more important thing, are we going to get somebody in here that's going to run a balanced offense? Period. Put him under center for a couple times. You can still run gun. You can still run pistol. Run damn play action. Every time we ran play action, it looked great and it worked. It got the linebackers moving off their spots and it cleared the middle. We didn't throw across the middle, but it cleared the middle anyways. So it all depends on who we get as an offensive coordinator, and are they going to put some common sense rules down and use the weapons that we have? And for God's sake, pick up the blitz.
Absolutely. Luke, Greg, Blake.
I mean, I think the city explodes if he has another year like he had this year. I mean, if the city's already exploding now after one, quote unquote down year, I don't know if the city will stay lit. Yeah, I tend to. You see when it works, what works, and it's almost like that's too easy for them right now. Where it was just like, oh wait, this worked. We ran the opening drive right before we stalled out. 2 runs for DeAndre, first down. Smitty was open over the middle and effective over the middle. Then we started going boundary. So it's almost like they just start playing with their head to try and do different things. I'm hoping he bounces back. I think he bounces back. I don't see and envision something good happening if he has a down year again.
Luke.
Yeah, it goes back to what I said earlier, and just it's hard to come back off of 2 back-to-back bad seasons in this city, or really anywhere, but here really it's hard to do that. And that's why we talked about it, and I bring up the question, do you really think this is the coach that's going to bring it out of him? Because if he doesn't, then you're kind of pissing your investment away. Like, the ownership is investing in Jalen by giving him $250. So if you're waltzing him out there under the season with an undeserved head coach, what are you doing for your investment? Nothing. He's going to have to be gone, because we all know that if he doesn't come out here and has back-to-back bad seasons, in this city especially, it's very hard. And I don't think I've seen it happen coming back from it. Ben Simmons,
who would be
Carson
gone?
Wentz.
Jalen Hurts?
I think he would have to be.
Nah, Nick will be gone before Jalen Hurts.
I agree with you, but I think by then, just from a mental standpoint, we've seen this before. Like, would he be the same player? I don't know. That's why I just want the coach out. Then I'm all in. Then I'm all in.
You find out about the mental side this year. You know what I mean? I don't need another year to see if he can handle it. We're gonna find out this year. I believe he's mentally tough, but we're gonna find out. We don't. You know what I mean? We're not gonna need more time for that.
The good thing about next year, there is no misunderstanding whatsoever. If we don't have a good year, Sirianni's gone.
Absolutely.
So now I understand. Take your time finding your coach, because they are fighting for your job, period. And I'm curious if the reason why they're taking so long, are they trying to go after some guys that possibly might go to the Super Bowl? Are we trying to bring Denard Wilson back? Anything like that? Is that why we're taking so long? Because there's still some people they want to talk to that they can't? We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't they have had a window here during the week to talk to him? It was like, how is Ben Johnson from Detroit? You know what I mean? Like, how is he already penciled in as the Washington coach if he's on the same schedule as the Ravens in theory?
Well, they're allowed to. Yeah, they have that window.
Good point.
But maybe they just haven't. Again, they're obviously doing their due diligence on it.
Right.
Sure.
And I absolutely respect that. It's not a rush. It's about getting it right. It's not the first person to finish the race. You know what I mean? In this situation. Blake, do you think he has a bounce back year?
I mean, I'm leaning towards yes, but I think it's going to be like one of those things. We'll just have to wait and see. But I think you remember, like, when I talked about this the week before the playoff game, that with Sirianni, losing his job if he doesn't have a good game against Tampa, would that be on the table? And I thought at the time, yeah, it was on the table. But I really thought, like, even if they had a bad game against Tampa, which they did, I thought, if anything, if anybody it's going to go, it's probably going to be the coordinators, and Sirianni would probably be safe for a year. Because, like I said, I mean, he's taken them to the playoffs his first 3 years as coach. So I thought, if anything, the coordinators would probably be replaced, which I'm in favor of. I'm glad all those guys are going. I mean, I thought Sean Desai in a way kind of got a raw deal in a way when he got caught in the middle there. And I truly believe I still don't believe that was totally a Nick Sirianni call. I still think that came from up top. But, obviously, it is what it is. But I think, I think, like, depending on who they bring in as the offensive coordinator, if it's a creative mind that can be an offensive guru, yeah, I think Sirianni can have a bounce back here. But I think it all depends on who they bring in as the offensive coordinator.
No, it absolutely does.
Determined. So.
Absolutely does. Listen, enough Eagles, right? Let's just get into Joel Embiid before we get out of here, because It's absolutely impressive. I don't think we should ever. I think
He's
we
killing
should
it.
sit. I think we
I
should
gotta
sit
bounce,
and enjoy
fellas.
it. Marcus,
Marcus,
thanks for
thanks,
joining us, brother.
You
We'll
got
see
it, brother.
everybody.
My
We'll see you
pleasure.
tomorrow night.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
take it easy, man.
You know, and I hear a lot of people saying, and it actually irks me a little bit. It's like, well, you know, pass the second round first. Like, I get it. You're living life like that. Like, people want to live life like that. Like, I don't want to live life like that. I'm watching generational stuff happen right in front of my eyes. I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah,
Right? We'll discuss what happens after. But are you a fan?
it's
So,
fun.
like, a fan wants to enjoy the moment. I'm not thinking about, you know what I mean? I'm not thinking about like, oh, you know, I mean, I'm not telling you I'm not thinking about it, but like, I'm not going to be like, oh, let me see what he does in the playoffs. None of this matters. It absolutely matters. We're watching a guy get better. We're watching a system work for him.
Yeah.
You know, we're watching a guy playing like we're talking about historic basketball numbers right now. Like historic
insane.
levels. You're
It's
talking about
insane,
Wilt
Tommy.
Chamberlain. Every stat's with Wilt. I mean, if you're in statistical categories with a guy who's bigger than everybody, when he played and just could dominate the league and was arguably one of the best athletes ever play in the NBA, right? Then I think you're having a monster year, babe. And I think we should live in that moment and not just get ahead of ourselves and say, well, you don't get past second round, doesn't matter. Well, of course, that's the goal. But I'm still gonna ride the season out. I'm not gonna think about the playoffs until I'm there.
Playoffs. No, it truly is amazing, and this is obviously everyone knows my thoughts on the NBA. I don't watch it, but watching this guy every night is a joy. If you go back and look at the last, well, I think there's only 6 to 8 guys that have scored 70 points, and if you look at it, he did it with 1 3-pointer. Everybody wants to hammer him on the free throws. Everybody who scored 70 points had at least 15 free throw attempts, right? So we could throw that out the door. But every other person had it, I think at minimum 7 made 3-pointers in that 70-point burger that they dropped. Joel did it with 1.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think that's even more impressive. 70 is, you drop 70, that's impressive anyway. But to do it with only 1 3-pointer because he's such a big and he plays such a dynamic, diverse type of offensive game, it was a joy to watch.
Yeah, and Kevin, I mean, Nick Nurse deserves a lot of credit, obviously. And he definitely deserves a shout out for what we're watching from this whole team. And Dave's right, like KD's reaction, you know, that was great, and that told you a lot. Where like to Greg's point, like, wait, what? He scored 7? Like, oh my God, that's amazing.
I get a question around that once everybody goes with their initial reactions.
Yeah, I think this is the year where I'm not sure if we get out of the second round, but I think this is definitely the year with him that he performs in the playoffs. Because I think a lot of times with a big, it's different. Most of the time, it's really perimeter centric, and it makes everyone else's job easier. I'm not saying it's hard to play with him, it's just different. And what's different about it, the main thing is that you have to have someone in that dunker spot. There's got to be somebody there. And to me, I think that they have the perfect player around him at every single role that's needed around him. They have a ball handler that can change pace of play, which he's needed forever. Ben Simmons was completely inconsistent with that and incompetent in bringing up the ball because no one would guard him. And then, you know, you also get a scoring option to Tobias, who now is seemingly to understand this is my time in a game where I got to attack. I got to take advantage of my matchup. They have a guy in Batum that's a quick decision maker, catch and shoot, catch and pass. He's a great decision maker, doesn't eat the ball for too long, allows Joel to work. And they have a guy in Kelly Oubre who I think gets swept under the rug in terms of a fit next to Joel Embiid. He is a perfect fit with him because he shoots, he scores, but more important than anything else, he is athletic as hell. When he's underneath that spot in the corner, diving baseline, if he's in that dunker spot, it's hard. Like he gets up a lot, and he's a really good defender. I think they have every piece they need around him finally to realistically say this is the team around him and the coach around him too. Because I don't feel like most of the time the big thing with him in the regular season has been passing and how that hasn't been a thing. With Nick Nurse, he's not passing to players. He's really just passing to spots. He sees a double. He knows exactly where to go with the ball. He's passing to spots. That's what I see is the big difference. And I'm really, really excited. It's hard not to be.
Yeah, it's an evolution of a great generational player, right? That obviously for how special he is, he deserves to be healthy in the postseason. He deserves to have a postseason at his best.
It would
We've
be
still
nice,
not
right?
seen that. We've still not seen that. And I swear by it, if he's healthy, ain't nobody beating this team in 7 games.
Yeah,
But
I
he's
brought
completely
this up
healthy.
too. I brought this up the other
No
day.
shot.
Outside of the guys who are, playing today that are locked to be legends like Durant, LeBron, and Curry, I think Joel Embiid currently has the most valuable ring in the NBA. Meaning where if he wins one and you look at it and he's going to have to go past a guy like Giannis, a guy like Tatum, Jokic, if he gets one, he is up there 100% in terms of you're talking all-time talk. Like all time.
Yeah,
Because
because the
Dirk
points per
Dirk
minute
only
is
got the
why.
one.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Yep.
Dirk only got the one. And people revere him forever. If he just gets one, he's not the guy that's going to need 3 or 4. If he gets one and brings this city to one after the countless amount of mistakes and hell that it's got, I think it's the most valuable ring in the NBA in terms of
Well-
elevating to like a legend status.
Oh, in this city? I mean, are you not out of your mind? Like out of your mind in a good way? Like this city would be out of their minds. I mean, I don't think this city gets enough love for the basketball town it is. Like it really is. And if you're winning here, I'm telling you that's game changing. And when you talk about a whole process and trust it and all those things, and that at the end finishes with a title, you're spot on, Luke. I mean, that's
the guy.
Yeah, from the guy. Oh my no. I mean that
Hinkie better be on a float somewhere. Hinkie better be on a float
yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, and the
Get him in a mama's outfit.
The thing you hear is playoff. That's all you hear, which is fine. But if he goes on and wins one, now all these stuff that people are glossing over, the points per minute, the 70 points, the leading the league in scoring the last 3 freaking seasons in the league, you're talking about literally, and I know I'm young, but it's hard to imagine that there are like you make 75s, he's got to be on that. Got to be. When they make that 75 team and they'll eventually make 100, like he's got to be on there with one.
Yeah. But you can't gloss over those numbers.
No.
Right? Like you say, you want to gloss it over. That's hater talk. Blake, how do you feel about him? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, just watching him, like I said, on a nightly basis, like when I talked about him before on there, I mean, it's just a joy to watch, man. He just, what more can I say? I mean, just enjoy the watch, and like I said, like you mentioned earlier, he deserves to take this level of play into the postseason, and just raise his level of play even more, and just see what he can do, and just see if he can do something special and bring this city, what it deserves, and what it doesn't, like you said, get enough for respect as a basketball town by bringing them a championship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean Philly rocks
the end goal.
when a basketball team is good. I mean, you see it with the level of college. When a college team is good, this city rallies around it. It's a shame that free agents, when they look to come here, and I get there's caps, right? But like it's a shame that Philly gets shit on as a city from the free agent side point. Like, if you come here and win a championship in a basketball, you like you said, Luke, you're a legend in the city of Philadelphia. I mean, we saw what it did for 2008 Phillies, right? We saw what it did for the 2017-18 Eagles, right? I mean, any town you get a championship in is a legendary. But the underratedness of a basketball town that Philadelphia is crazy to me.
It really is. It doesn't get enough credit for it. You know what I mean?
Well, not even that. Like if you want to look at it like nationally too, like for me, look at the guys that he would have to go through. He's going through Giannis. He's going through the Boston and Tatum and all those guys, and then probably a guy like Jokic, guys that nationally he'll be compared for probably the rest of his career. If he goes through those guys, leads the league in scoring for 3 straight years, has a ring to prove on top of it with a city and a team that hasn't won anything in forever and was abysmal before he got there, and he was the face of the whole thing. I mean, people see Dirk as like a top 20 player ever. To me, he's got, if with one ring, he's right there because he went through all those guys, leading the league in scoring 3 straight years, back-to-back MVPs, it seems. I mean, his resume would be ridiculous. 70-point game. I mean, what wouldn't he have? Going through all those guys too.
Nothing.
Yeah, he definitely needs it. He definitely needs that one because he's gonna live in AI territory for his whole career if he doesn't get one. You know what I mean? Like, or Dan Marino, right? Jim Kelly, those guys. Like, you were really, really good, maybe even great, but you didn't win one, right? It's amazing what that one next to that, changing that 0 to a 1 just does wonders for guys.
Oh, it does. I mean, you got players in today's world that, or former players, like Barkley, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just a game changer. You know what I mean? That he didn't get it, right?
Yeah.
He gets
a great one. Yeah.
He gets that. It's like he's already a great player, but it's like he's almost like not Mount Rushmore, but he's almost like Luke's saying, it just finishes off your career, right? You get that one, especially in a sport where it's like one guy has that much of an impact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in the NBA where you can have a guy have that kind of like impact on a game. So listen, it's a great thing to watch. It really is. It's a joy.
It's been fun.
And Nick Nurse, we talked about it. If there's one guy who knew how to defend him, it was him. Yeah. So, if he can get the most out of him, and then I'll say it again, player development wise, there ain't many better guys than Rico Hines. So I've been pretty clear on that. I don't know everything, but that's just factual. And the respect he has from players
last night.
Yeah. So I mean, this is like, come on, this is a good thing we're in right now. It really is. So I'm excited. I really am. I'm excited. I don't know how anybody can't be excited.
I'm excited, and I even hate watching the NBA.
Me too. I don't hate it, but yeah, you hate it. I definitely do hate it. Well, listen, guys, this was a great run tonight.
Yeah, good stuff.
Great run. And we had a lot to go over. That's the thing. We had a lot to go over tonight. A lot of reports to go over. A lot of reports to go over.
Reports, sources.
Yeah, it's just there's no shots being taken here. It's trying to get answers. Right. And I think I speak for all fans. And I appreciate everybody that tunes into this. Right. But in no way, shape, or form are we because I post content. So I'll just put myself out there. I don't care. In no way am I trying just to get a click. I'm always just trying to pass on info. That's it. That's the name of the game. I'm not trying to put out false information. Ever. I don't do a lot of the source stuff. Scroll the page, babe. There ain't much source stuff. Facts. Last night was different. Last night was like a weird, different thing. You're like, wait, a player said this? Right? You're like a current player, not a guy who doesn't have a contract here and has an agenda. You're like, wait, what happened? So, like, everybody relax. That's all. Everybody relax. Like, I'm probably more of an Eagles fan than 90% of you. And you got a lot to say to me. But I'll say this. Anybody out there that puts a player above their team is a clown. That's the facts. That is the facts. It's Eagles first, players second, man. They come and go. Darn it. We over here put guys above your team. That's a violation. I put nobody above my team. I want my players to be great. I want to believe in them, but I'm an Eagles fan first and foremost. Because guess what? When these guys aren't here, the Eagles still will. They'll still be here. So ain't no player like above the team. And not saying, you know what I mean by that. Like no player's above the team. And if you can't be a critical thinker or you don't ever criticize somebody, good for you. Good for you. I'm in the business to show you love. I'm in the business to smoke you. I'm in the business of being in the middle. Like, not for clicks, because I'm a fan. It's gonna keep making me laugh before we get out of here. Like, I don't know what else to do.
Comical. It is comical.
Greg, have you seen, like, I almost want to, like, never go on social media again. If you saw
I try not to.
If you saw the Instagram comments about me, you would be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
Clearly, you don't listen to what was said. You just took whatever caption or first 30 seconds of the video to then criticize on.
Yeah, it's all they do. Like, you're trying to, you guys want to create drama. Blah, 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 blah. No, we want to win, and we would like to stop hearing this stuff too. No other city has this much, like, extra.
No, we are special in that. We are definitely special in that.
We move on from it, right? We're moving on. We're hoping we don't get any more reports, but I got a weird feeling that we're going to hear some more stuff before this is all over. But hopefully we don't, guys, right? You know, hopefully it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know that it's over. I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree.
There's too many stuff coming out. Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I think more stuff's going to be coming out about this as well. I think this is only the beginning.
Yeah, I do. I do too. So, Ethan, it's late, so we would love to talk some Flyers, but we'll say the Carter Hart stuff is extremely creepy, and you just hope that it's not true, right? So,
yeah,
that's all you can say on it. I'm not gonna sit here and crush a guy until I know it's factual. I have my opinions on it. I have some facts on it, but I'll let it play out before I put myself out there again, like I already did once today.
Did anybody catch the Danny Briere press conference? Did you guys catch it at all?
He didn't say nothing.
No, but I heard he didn't say anything.
Nah, he didn't.
He's not allowed to. That's pretty much what he said. I'm not allowed to comment on it.
And that kind of confirms what everyone's thinking, right? You know what I mean?
I mean, he basically said,
Don, easy win for you Sunday, babe. Easy
Come
win.
on, Don. Come on, Don. Do it for everybody.
Kyle will lose it. So he'll figure out a way.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, he basically just said that they were just waiting on the NHL to see what the next steps are. So that's basically where we're at this point. They don't seem to know anything as much as we do.
Yeah, exactly. So they're just waiting to see. But listen, guys, great show. It's been A2D Wednesday nights, brought to you by Royal Billiard. Make sure you check us out next Wednesday. Hit the like, subscribe, turn your alerts on. Go Eagles. Let's go Sixers. Some good games coming up this week. You got tomorrow night versus Indiana. Saturday, Denver. Then you go a little West Coasty. Got a little West Coast trip coming up, which I love. That plays into my schedule, right? So Saturday's a 5:30 game against the Nuggets in Denver. And then you go to Indiana tomorrow, Denver Saturday. Then you're off to Portland Monday, Warriors Tuesday, Jazz on Thursday. And then you come home Saturday versus the New Jersey Nets. So there's a little rundown of the Sixers. 10-9-8, baby. Best player on the planet. Enjoy them. Soak them in. And let's keep running off wins. For Luke, Blake, Greg, I'm Tom. No Chrome. No tonight. We'll be back next week. We love you all. We thank you for tuning in. What'd you say?
My back.
Oh, yeah. Some guys are gamers. We're out.